welcome to yet another episode of Women in the Making. Thank you for showering so much love to us for the last week, and we are so blessed to have you part of our lives. And please keep encouraging us, keep watching, keep subscribing, and keep telling your friends about us. Maya Angelou said, "A wise woman wishes to be no one's enemy. A wise woman refuses to be anyone's victim." We have a very special guest within us. In the face of prejudice, our guest refused to be bound by potential, proving that strength and talent know no color. In today's episode, we will learn how she overcame racial bias, her journey to becoming an entrepreneur, turning passion into profit, a social worker, and a public speaker. Please help me welcome and learn more about Keisha Credit. Her resilience and determination have what has got her today, and her ride is a must-share story. Keisha, thank you so much for coming to our show.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am happy to be here, and I'm excited for what we're going to discuss, and we've got some good stuff to get to. So thank you for this platform.
Keisha, I would like to start by asking you a little more about your personal life, where you come from, how was your childhood?
Yeah.
A lot is there in the news, but I want to start at the very beginning about your life.
Yeah, so I'm from Seattle. I've been in Seattle forever. Every time there's an opportunity that I think I'm going to leave and do something else, Seattle calls me back home. So I was born and raised here in the Central District. My mother raised me. My father was murdered when I was really young, so I was really close to my mom.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I was very unfortunate. So I was about 2 years old. So I grew up.
How did that happen?
So I'm not really sure of all the details of what happened. I'm not sure. It was one of those things where I think my family did a great job of making sure that the circumstances, that I guess led to what happened to him, that I was still able to thrive in my environment, in my world. So I think that they did a great job at balancing, making sure I was still able to go on and thrive. And my grandparents did a great job at filling those gaps. My grandpa and my grandma stepped in, and I'm always talking about my grandpa because he was my best friend. Yeah. And so I was raised with, my grandparents a lot, and I love spending time with them. They retired a little bit after I was born, so they pretty much were like, whatever you need, I'm there. We got it. And then from there, I went to school all in the area. So I've always walked to school. I've always been very communal based. And that's kind of one of the things about Seattle families is like, you're here, you kind of know everyone. Everyone has their community. So I went to Washington Middle School, Garfield High School. I went to UW. I did Running Start, all of the academic achievement things. I was doing them all. So I graduated from college really young. I was 20 when I graduated. I went to Microsoft and I was 21. I had my 21st birthday there and no one knew it was my birthday. And I was sitting at my desk like, all of my friends were at a bar or doing something crazy. Here I am on this spreadsheet and it's my birthday. So, I've been used to pushing myself to achieve great things while understanding that sometimes you miss out on some things and that's okay. But I've definitely always had really big goals. I can remember being really young and being like, I want to do these big things, and no one ever said I couldn't. So I never not tried to do them. So I think that's just a running thread with who I am as a person is why not?
Absolutely.
So if I have an idea, why not?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful for you to share your initial journey with us. Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
For sure.
How was your relationship with your mother while growing up? Did you have any differences?
We did. So, my mom and I, we have had our ups and downs in our communication. We are very similar, but also very, very, very different. And I'm just a very unique person in my family in general. Everyone's kind of like,
That's like me.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit of an outlier when it comes to different different things. And that's been okay. You know, we all love that. And I think with mother-daughter relationships, there's always some times when mom thinks this, daughter thinks this.
Always.
And if you can't meet in the middle, then it's kind of like, I'll come back when I'm ready. And we always come back when we're ready.
I'm glad you say that.
You know, but
I hope my mom is watching this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not vocal about it.
No, you know, and it's one of those things that, you know, we've had our distances and our separation, and I think it was needed for both of us to be in a healthy space. And then we come back together and we're able to communicate and say, okay, here's how I felt about this. Here's what's going on. Here's what I need. And then becoming a mother, you know, I'm a different person now, and now she is a grandmother.
Yes.
And so now it's like learning a whole new person. She's learning me as a mother. I'm learning her as a grandmother. And so through that, we're able to bond in a different type of way. There's a different level of respect, and there's a different level of care and love and just sincerity in our relationship. So I'm very grateful at how we've progressed and grown, because we've definitely had our moments of we got to figure something else out because we're just at ends, you know. So
absolutely,
you know, I think that's a norm for
wonderful.
mother-daughters.
Keisha, at the age of 23, when young people are trying to build their career, you decided to call it a quit.
Yeah.
It sounds scary.
At
the same time, I'm sure it was nerve-wracking and exciting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what made you into that decision, and how did you flawlessly enter that journey?
Oh my gosh, I appreciate that it looked flawless from the outside. I really appreciate that. It was not. It was such a God-led decision, to be honest. I was not prepared to leave my job. There was no preparation. There was a strong sense of you are not on the right path. And I had accomplished this huge feat of getting into Microsoft straight out of college. You know, I had been an intern at Microsoft for about 3 years before that. So sometimes you assume that you're a shoo-in when you're an intern, but that's not always the case, right?
No.
And so you have this vision of what this experience is going to be like at this company. And I love the company. It was kind of like Microsoft made me who I was. Like, I felt like I was bred to be a Microsoftie. And so when I graduated, I said, okay, that's my option. And
it's like a dream job.
Yeah, you know, but when I was graduating, I went to Ghana. I went to Africa right when I graduated, and I loved it. It was life-changing, most amazing experience ever. And I said, I don't want to go to Microsoft. I actually want to do something else. So I started looking at different jobs, and I was at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I was like, Grandpa, I think I'm going to work at Enterprise instead of Microsoft. And he was like, what are you saying? And I was like, no, it's a great company. I like this. It's chill.
Sounds like every parent's nightmare.
He was
especially
like,
if you're working in Microsoft.
He was like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, I think I'm going to weigh the options. And he was like, okay, listen. He's like, I understand. Like, you know, you want to think this through. Anyways, Microsoft was the only option. There was nothing else happening. And it was a great experience for sure. I think that being in a culture that Microsoft was then, I still have a lot of friends that are there now, completely different now, I would definitely say. But it was challenging where you're the youngest one on the team, but you're managing 50 people that are probably twice your age. They don't respect you all the way. And there was really no leadership in place to make them respect you, because your leadership may not even respect you sometimes. Like, I literally was there from like multiple CEO pivots from my experience at Microsoft. And so our group is going through a reorg, and I hate how when there's a reorg at a large organization,
have so many reorgs,
and it's like it trickles all the way down to affecting everyone. And I'm like, if you're going to reorg, everyone should not have to be frantic like this. And so I'm talking to my manager, who's a new manager. I think I had known her for all of 2 months or so. She starts to talk to me like she's my mom. And she's like, you know, because my daughter's your age, and what I would tell my daughter, and I'm in this meeting like, oh, this is not going to work out because I am not your child. And I don't even know why you're talking to me like this. I don't know what makes you believe that I'm open for or need to receive this feedback in this type of manner. And I just literally said, she slid me the paper. I turned the number over and it says 0. I said, what do you mean there's no, and I'm talking about for the bonus. I said, what do you mean there's no? And she's like, because of the reorg. Literally, I don't know what she said after that because I went blank. I was like, I said, So because you guys are having a shift in your system, our team, as far as what I know myself, has to suffer and not receive what is due to us.
Yeah.
I literally walked out that moment, and it was earth shaking. And at that time, I had just started Lucky by Keisha, and I was just making wigs for fun, like just for myself, for a couple of my sorority sisters. I just made it happen. Like literally, I was
That's
selling
so
my
inspirational.
stock to like, make sure the months when I couldn't figure it out, because it was just me in my basement, just making wigs. And that's how I got on social media. I wasn't even on social media before that.
Yeah.
And I said, in order to sustain your living, because you don't want to lose your house, you need to get out here. And it was like the moment that I got on. I mean, like 2 days later, I had orders, I had clients, I had brands wanting to like send me hair to do stuff. And so then I started to spread to my grandfather's house. So then I'm like on his dining room table and I'm making wigs over there. And he's like, what is going on? And I'm like, Grandpa, I got to renovate the basement. Like, I don't have any space. So I literally went from making wigs in my kitchen to the living room, to the downstairs office, to a full studio renovation at my old house. So that was a really long answer for the Microsoft question. But, it all added up because I was confident enough to say, I'm just going to do something else. And it changed my life.
That was so insightful, Keisha, knowing about your journey from Microsoft to being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure it's motivated so many young people around the world.
Hope so.
Moving on to the next question. You've spoken on many platforms about the racial bias you had to encounter while inheriting your grandfather's property. A lot of us probably are hearing this for the first time, and I'm sure we would like to know and dig a little more about what you had to go through.
Yeah.
And even as a brown woman myself, I had to go through racial bias a couple of times living in this country, which I call it home.
Yeah.
So I want to know a little more about your journey.
Yeah. I think that sometimes for me, racial bias is so built into the system that we live in. It's difficult to identify it as that sometimes. Even with the story about my grandfather's house, someone had to literally say to me, like, this is because you are Black, for me to truly say, yes, that is what's going on. And the reason being is because normally that is what's going on, right? And I think that any type of bias impacts people's ability to have an upward mobility, right? And so education is your first influence and impact experience where a group of people can literally determine your outcome.
It's about, which wolf are you mouthing?
Yeah.
It's strength, determination, courage, or you're going the other ways, right?
Exactly.
You're going through the path of self, criticizing.
Yeah.
Or like just you're not able to understand what's going inside your system because you went through that.
Yeah, definitely. When I inherited my grandpa's house, I got on TikTok, and I had already been on TikTok talking about renovation and things like that. And I started to feel different about the space that I had grown up. I've been there my whole life. It's literally the same house, same block, right? But it felt different. And of course, now it was mine, so of course it's going to feel different, but I started to see things differently. I started to experience things differently, and I started to understand, wait a minute, you have something that someone is literally trying to get from you, and like, what? I've been a homeowner. It's not like this is a new thing. I'm like, but that was not this. This is something different going on. The Central District before used to be affordable housing.
Yes.
Now the Central District is $1 million and up,
they are
right?
all $1 million.
And
or probably much more.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes when we're outside, Adama could be cutting the grass or something, and they're like, oh, do you work here? And he's like, why would I work here? Like, what? And so it's interesting to be in a community that doesn't even know its own history, really, because I think there's so many new people there, and I love that. I love the way that the community is inclusive. However, it is very sad to feel that the culture, I think, has gone in a lot of ways. I could walk anywhere and know if I act an ass, somebody is going to be around and I'm going to get in trouble. Now, not the case at all, you know? And I think that community aspect is gone, and that's what I miss the most. And it's literally an economic pivot, you know? I think it's reverse redlining, to be honest. Raise the prices, and certain people either sift in or they sift out. And I think that's the unfortunate piece about it.
So what led you to actually finally inherit the property?
I'm laughing because my grandpa's a very prepared person. I have known, I think my whole family has known, it's something my grandpa talks about all the time. Keisha's going to get the house. When she gets it, she's going to remodel. That was the plan. And so I knew that was the plan. There was no surprise. There was no shock or anything. I knew what I was supposed to do. I knew what I needed to do. And that's what I did. So my grandpa lived a very full life all the way until the end. You know, death is one of those things that people feel very differently about it, you know? Yes. And so I don't say this to sound morbid, but he had a beautiful death. My grandpa knew his body was giving out on him. He knew.
They typically get to know,
you know,
they realize when
it's
the
time. And he said January 1st. And I was like, Grandpa, can you stop saying that? March 25th is when he passed away.
You know, I also recorded a video sometime back where I said, do you remember the first time you took your first steps? Probably not.
No, yeah.
But you would always know when the last moments are coming to you. I've always heard that. I've always learned that. So exactly how you spoke about your grandfather, I think that's so true. He just knew inside his heart his time was up, and all he wanted to do is spend time with his favorite people in the world.
He was like, I want to go home. And he had kidney failure. And so my grandpa's like, if we can fight this at home, I'll do it. But if we can't fight this at home, I'm not doing this. Like, what am I doing this for? And it's hard to be young and understand that, because the youngness in you wants to fight. The youngness in you believes in innovation. The youngness in you believes in hope, right? Wisdom and age will tell you, look, yeah, we could fight. Or
every age comes with a little bit of wisdom.
Yeah.
I feel like last year, why did I do this?
Exactly.
Wasn't that stupid?
Yeah. And then
I just became a little more wiser this year.
Exactly. To be in a place where you know that your ancestors have transitioned, there was a metaphysical experience that happened here. This ground is blessed, you know? And so I feel grateful. And then to have my son come in, it was very out of body to walk my son up the stairs where my grandpa was just ushered out not long before that. That was very therapeutic, and it was very healing. And even my family addressed like the newness coming in, and it's just very deep to be in the same space, you know? So it's cool. It's like everyday living an experience that I had no idea that I was going to live. And it literally feels like my story and my life is like unfolding, and I'm kind of watching it too, because I'm like, I never would have thought I would live in the home where my grandpa passed away. Like, what? So, you know, it's all happening.
No, I love what you just shared about your grandpa. I know we started about racial bias, but I love that we are able to talk about the personal moments, the personal touches, and, you know, how we end that life cycle that we all live in. You know, death is something that we cannot take us apart.
Yeah, it humanizes us. It's the only unifying.
Time that you live in.
Yeah, it's the unifying factor to life. We all are born and we all will go.
Absolutely.
You know.
Can you describe your journey in reaching the $1 million revenue and launching multiple companies?
Yeah.
A lot of us keep dreaming, keep thinking of how this can happen and, you know, make it a reality. You've done it multiple times. Walk us through it. Tell somebody who's starting fresh, new, getting demotivated. What are those life lessons that you've learned, and what can they do right now to incorporate that in their career?
I think first is to understand that those feelings of up and down never go away. The $1 million mark was not something I was working. I was not like, this is the goal of the business. I was doing my taxes and realized that that was what happened. And I said, oh my gosh, this is a huge accomplishment. And we celebrated it, of course. And then Forbes reached out and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It was
the best thing is you don't even realize that it happened.
Okay, so how I ended up in Forbes, I was at a bar in Mexico, and I do this thing where I go on these rants. I get really passionate about things, and when I'm in places when I don't know people, I can rant because no one knows me, right? And I can go really deep. So I'm in Mexico, and I'm ranting about how business operations are so challenging, and da 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 da. She happened to be an editor for Forbes, so we exchange information. I don't know this on the whole trip. We're communicating and talking. We get back home and she's like, hey, I'm actually an editor for Forbes. I would love to do this month's business feature on you. And I was like, what? I was like, why did you say that? She was like, because I felt like you would change what you were saying if you knew that. And I was like, I probably would have toned it down just a little bit. But it was an awesome experience to happen by happenstance. And honestly, a lot of things have happened that way. With the $1 million goal and the $1 million mark, every business just starts out as an idea, right? I come up with these ideas and determining which ones are worth it and which ones aren't. If I say something's worth it, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go hard. I want it to succeed, right? I understand the struggle, the grind that is necessary for that to happen. I think that when your passion aligns with experience is where it's easier to say, I can launch something and watch it grow, right? So once I did it once, I said, okay, I have another idea. I want to try it. So then I launched the hair care line. That went great. I sold that company. I said, okay, I have another idea. Let's try this. And I just consistently kept doing that. And it was so fun. I don't know if now I would do it as quickly as I did it then. And I'm so grateful and I'm so excited that I spent all of my 20s continuously just trying and doing things and all the things, because now I have the confidence to say, if I want to try something new, I'm not afraid to do it. It's still scary, but I do know that there is an other side, and I do know what the other side feels like, and it's still scary, right? But it's fun. And to see your team and to have a team that relies on you for literally living their best lives, it's a responsibility that now being a mom, I understand it's a very gratifying, it's a very gratifying feeling, because your business is like your baby. And when you see your baby able to do things and grow other people, and I mean, it's just one of the most beautiful experiences ever.
Was somebody guiding you through this? Because
No.
when you're like trying to launch different companies, did you have a mentor in your
life? No,
I didn't. You by yourself.
I didn't get a mentor until I went to grad school. So I went to grad school for my master's in entrepreneurship, and that's when I started to get mentors and actually say, here's what I want to do. So I made a goal and I said, I want to be funded. I don't want to bootstrap any more companies. Yes. I want to be part of a funded company. And I was. So that's how we launched Paki Apaka, which was our refillable candle line. And we were in business accelerators, and we were able to experience something in business that was very different from a bootstrapping environment. Now you're in venture capitalism. Now you're in a whole different world, in a different lane. And I said, this is the speed that I want to be rowing at right here. This is what I like. And I'm so grateful to have both experiences and be a part of both worlds, because they are very different languages to speak, really.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I think, tell me the biggest life lesson you've learned after launching multiple companies. Somebody who's watching you today and is getting inspired, what would you like to tell them?
The biggest thing is have a therapist. That is honestly the biggest thing, because you are going to have to constantly evolve as a CEO. And a CEO is a title, and it's a position, and it's a responsibility. It's not just a cute 3 letters to put on the end of your name, which a lot of people do, and they don't understand. It's a responsibility. My therapist was so wise and so brilliant, and also an entrepreneur, right? Most therapists are entrepreneurs. So if you can find the right fit, in a way, they're kind of like mentors, right? Because we didn't talk about business all the time. However, business affects your life. Like it is your relationship pretty much, you know? Seriously. So my therapist was able to help me when it got rough. My therapist was able to walk me through some of those moments when I didn't know what to do and say, even if you don't know what to do, even if you don't have a mentor, how do you mentally stay sane as you walk down this really dark hallway? Mm-hmm. Learning how to trust myself in the dark, game changing. And I think that the people around you, therapists in particular, not the voices of your friends, of your family, because they're going to put your heart first. A therapist is going to put your well-being first.
Ooh, this is so good.
And that is one of the things where you can't go to your friends and your family for everything because most of them are not CEOs. Mm-hmm. So how can they give advice on something when you've never had to miss out on dinner because you had to pay your payroll? And making those sacrifices is something that only few can seriously understand of you pay everybody else first and then you get paid. It doesn't matter if you made $1 million. If your payroll is 99999, that $1, that's what you got, and you have to be excited about that. Yes. So I think that's what I would say is have support.
Oh, I think that's a very good initiative by you in telling especially me, because I do not have a therapist.
Oh, you got to get a
therapist. And I need to get one as well, because I think that's a missing element from our lives that sometimes we don't know, and somebody just needs to introduce that to us.
Literally, yeah.
And if you have missed this segment, please go back.
Yeah.
Relearn, re-listen, because this is really important.
Yeah. And I'm on the board of Washington Therapy Fund Foundation. Literally what we do is connect people with therapists because we understand the value of having a therapist. And when I found this organization, like literally CEO woman of color, she's like, hey, do you believe in this? Like, would you want to work with me? I said, you mean I can just help people get therapy?
Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely. So literally I work with her just to do that. So I can definitely send you resources on how to connect with a great therapist. And we vet out, I think, hundreds of therapists. Most of them are therapists of color because we understand the differences of how to communicate in different spheres. So I'm all about therapy, like literally.
Good. Keisha, congratulations on the newborn.
Thank you.
His name is Serene, and I love that name.
Thank you.
I've been a mother 2 times, 10 and 5, and I don't think I had the energy to do anything except trying to get rest, pumping, breastfeeding, feeding myself, and going to sleep.
Yeah.
But when somebody looks at your social media profile, you are doing hands-on every single thing in the world, which is almost like a dream. It doesn't look like real, but I know it is real. Please tell us how you make that happen.
So the funny thing is, I went into motherhood with no expectations. I literally said, whatever happens to my body is what's going to happen. If I gain a whole bunch of weight, if I don't, I don't know. Whatever happens, right? When I had Serene, it was like literally the next day, I was like, I'm back. It's ready. I'm ready. And of course, I didn't.
Like a mental
I don't know.
I
don't know. And this is just for me. And I understand. Like it was weird. Even Adama was like, "What?" In the hospital, I'm like tidying up. And my therapist was very big on like, let's make sure that your postpartum is not channeling as anxiety in the form of you feeling the need to be productive. So I was very aware of, okay, that could be how postpartum shows up for me because I am very like, I like to do things, right? And it was more of a joy. When I got a moment to do what I like to do, which is projects, it's fun for me. That is my release. That
Not
is
everybody thinks like you.
Yeah, and so for some people, making a concrete walkway is not very fun. For me, that was one of the most cool things to experience, that you could dry pour a concrete walkway. It was very gratifying for me. And I'm loving it. I love taking my time to understand what I still need. And I love being a mom. I mean, I love it. I think it's the coolest thing ever.
Job.
Thank you so much.
You're inspiring.
I love it.
Who has older kids. And you, like, I think I started posting every day because if Keisha is posting 5 times a day, I should at least post once a day.
I think when I was pregnant, I took maybe 2 weeks off of social media. People are like, are you all right? Like, what is going on? Like, we feel like we don't know what's going on. And I said, no, I'm okay. I'm just, doing something different, which was weird. It felt very isolated.
I've been following you and looking at your closet organization and okay, what's next? Because
I think the cool thing about social media is it gives you a chance to just talk to people, right? And I think in my motherhood, I made a very conscious decision that I'm not going to just listen to kids' music all day. I'm going to talk to other people. And if social media is a great way to build that community, then that's what I'm going to do. And my brand is all about togetherness and doing the impossible, which is kind of what I'm tackling all the time every day. And so sharing just what's naturally happening, the inspiration piece is where I'm just grateful that God has given my story so much light, because there's a lot of things that inspire people that I'm like, this is just what I like to do, and so I'm just doing what I like to do.
Oh, I'm so happy that you got a chance to share this with us.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our segment. We're down to the last segment of our show, which is called The Burning Questions. Yeah. Keisha, tell us the secret nobody knows about you.
Okay, the secret that no one knows is that racial bias can come from people that are actually just like you. One of the most talked about racial bias experience that I have was from someone who was actually Black. And
no kidding.
Yeah. And so that is a secret that I think I have actually said, but no one believed. No one actually believed it.
I'm stunned too.
Yeah, that is the secret, that racial bias. Because just because you are someone who is brown does not mean that you identify with or have any sympathy, empathy, or relatability to that group. If you identify as a different group and you choose to use whatever power and influence that you have, that is still prejudice, and that is still putting down a group of people that you feel you are better than.
True.
It was very clear that this person felt, I am better than you, so therefore I am going to put you in a position to have less.
Wow.
That is still the same type of impact as racism from someone who does not look like you. So I would say that is a secret that nobody really knows.
I went through a racial bias. I was working in Seattle. I went to pick up a toy for my son in a store just during my lunch break.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing in the checkout line, and I feel like something in my back is hurting. And this woman in my back looked a little drunk, but I didn't see her face then. She had a knife holding behind my back.
What?
And she's whispering in my ears, if you move, I'm going to kill you right now.
What?
And you have to leave this country forever.
Wow.
You have taken our country.
Oh my God.
We don't have jobs because of you. So you need to get the F out right now.
Wow.
I had a couple people in the line. I couldn't utter a word because I was scared that she's just going to stab me right behind.
Nobody saw that?
No, she was holding the knife so closely.
Wow.
But I was trying to reach out to the guest associate, but nobody was looking at me. And I kept on walking in the line. She kept on walking with me.
Oh my God.
And then I don't know where I found the power from within.
Yeah.
I turned myself completely towards her face.
Yeah.
And I started screaming in the store that she has a knife, she's trying to hurt me, please call the cops.
Yeah.
That's when people started noticing something is wrong.
Yeah.
And she was almost coming at me where the security guard came and protected me.
Wow.
The cops came.
Oh my God.
The cops eventually asked me if I needed to file a case against her. And I said, I'll leave it to your discretion, but I don't know what to do at this point. She doesn't look like a person who's educated.
Wow.
She's living on the streets.
Wow.
So I said, just let her go. Give her a warning. I just hope she doesn't do that again.
Oh my God.
So racial
that is
bias.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It can come, you're walking, talking in the grocery store.
Yeah.
You never know when people are thinking about you. You're brown, you're black. You know, as a woman of color, I guess we face that day in and day out. Sometimes it's spoken.
And sometimes it's not. Unspoken. Yeah, and normally it is the overt racism that is the worst, because it's the racism that is under the table and that's very quiet, and it's the most powerful because, you know, some people say, I'd rather be down south in the southern states because if they don't like you, they tell you straight up. Versus in certain areas like Seattle, you just never know, you know, and that's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that happened.
My next question is, do you self-sabotage yourself?
Yeah, I am.
And what do you do to overcome?
I think self-sabotage is one of those things where, you know, there's the poem, you know, our greatest weakness, like our greatest weakness is not that we are powerful beyond measure. And I might be messing that one up, but sometimes when great things happen to me, I honestly go, what's going on? And I don't take them in enough. That is how I self-sabotage. And it's something that I've noticed a lot more about myself. Last week I was on the news. I talked about it a little bit, but I think it overwhelmed me. So I didn't talk about it that much. And I realized that I was self-sabotaging in that moment because I said, I don't know what to talk about this. I don't know how. I just didn't. So I didn't. And I was okay with that because I said, when you're ready, you will. If you're not ready, that's okay. It was out there. You're on the news. It happened. You know, whether you talk about it or not, it's out there. Mm-hmm. There comes a moment when you have to just say, I'm going to stand on the table and I'm just going to talk. And, you know, you're experiencing with your podcast, standing on the table and talking is hard sometimes, you know? And so I self-sabotage by getting afraid to stand on the table. And that's something that God is working with me on, like in the current moment through my son, because my content with him, I'm not trying, but it's like growing so quickly. And so it's kind of like God is like, whether you want to stand on the table or not, I'm going to put you on the table. So get on the table because it's happening either way.
Love it.
And I think that's how I self-sabotage in most of the ways.
Yeah. And we are at the final question of our show.
Yeah.
And what is the biggest lesson you have learned from a failure?
Oh, God, I have learned how to let go. I have learned that you don't have to have it all figured out. I've learned that success does not come from what's in your bank account. That one thing, letting that go, letting that number be what determines your success, you will drive yourself crazy because it is always going up and down if you're an entrepreneur. And teaching myself that money is a tool versus money is what you're judged by in your success, I was able to let a lot of things go. And so when things didn't work or when I lost money on different opportunities, I was saying, what did you learn? Well, that's what you paid for. Mm-hmm. And some of those things have been my greatest lessons. And I think I'm in a season now where I'm so grateful for understanding how to let go when things don't always go the way that they're supposed to go.
Keisha, thank you for being here. Your journey, your encouragement, your inspirational, your failures, and even speaking about them on a platform like this means a lot to us, because Women in the Making is a show where we want to inspire, encourage little girls, big girls, strong women to come forward, face the world, face what they need to learn, relearn, and progress, because every single woman is women in the making.
Yeah.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.